So good morning, everyone. On behalf of STPI team, I welcome you to this online meeting on better business regulatory environment in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa's services sector. This dialogue series is part of STPI's initiative to support Pakistan Regulatory Modernization Initiative, PRMI, which is being spearheaded by the Board of Investment and the Ministry of Commerce. The main objective of today's meeting is to look at three specific areas of better business regulation, which includes the provincial tax regime faced by the services sector, the finance and funding related environment for these businesses, and local level regulations, including any trade licenses, access to utilities, etc. The proceedings for today's meeting are expected to be inputs for the draft national SME framework, which has recently been tabled for the cabinet, and the deliberations would also be communicated to the provincial e-commerce councils, which have just been set up recently. There will be an agenda setting presentation by my colleague Ahad, after which we'll require interventions from our esteemed panelists. And I'm grateful to all the panelists for taking time out. These include Dr. Murtaza Syed, the Deputy Governor, State Bank of Pakistan, Mr. Fazl Amin Shah from the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Revenue Authority, Ms. Azza Atiq, an entrepreneur also helping the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa government in the tourism sector, Ms. Misbah Faiz, who's the founder of Khawateen Rozgar Services, Mr. Bilal Farooq Khan from the National Incubation Center, Peshawar, and of course, colleagues who will be joining us as participants today. And we, of course, are encouraging our participants to post their questions, inputs in the chat box. This meeting, with your consent, will be recorded, and the video will be available for you after this session as well. We welcome you to revisit the discussion later, and feel free to share it across your networks. So just in the interest of timekeeping, I will quickly move to my colleague, Mr. Ahad Nazir, for his presentation. Ahad, it's over to you.
Thank you everyone for joining in. It is indeed a pleasure to talk about the services sector of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and of course the government of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa has been paying a lot of importance to this sector in a multifold way. So we have seen progress in the tourism sector, as well as the transportation infrastructure has gotten much better than it used to be, especially with regards to the border areas, the Pak-Afghanistan border areas. So with all this, of course, we are expecting things to fall in place, and of course we are expecting growth in the private sector of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. So this presentation is just basically an agenda setting sort of a presentation, and I will not take much of time, and just to keep the panel focused around some of the areas that focus around some of the areas that we really want everyone to give their input into, and of course this will again be translated into a report, and we will be sharing that report with most of you in due time. And among other things, we will be popping up some questions, some small poll-based questions for the audience as well as the panelists, just to get an idea about the general perception around the business regulatory environment in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, especially with regards to the services sector. So just a brief scheme of the presentation. We have a macroeconomic framework, we will be discussing the capability of firms in COVID-19. Of course, that has hit the services sector. I think the services sector is one of the most hit sectors with regards to COVID-19. And then, of course, we will like to know what the firms in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa are asking, and we will be presenting some of the anecdotal as well as the empirical evidence that was available to us. And of course, we are open to discussion on those points. So the macroeconomic situation as a whole in Pakistan, the growth is depressed. There is a weak investment to GDP ratio. The expanded tax effort under the weak economic expansion, and of course, the fiscal deficit may be higher than estimated. The capacity to support firms diminishes if recovery takes longer. And of course, the rebound effect is there, but we have to see whether it is as per the anticipated amount or not. So the state of economy, uh, just just an overview. There have been construction-led activity picking up because of the construction packages that have been announced recently. Agricultural output is supposed to be rescued during COVID-19. A lot of effort is being put by the food departments, the agriculture departments at provincial, and the Ministry of Food Security and Research at the federal level. The CPI is rising, even though the interest rate or the discount rate has been coming down. So this is something that we really need to think about, that the government needs to think about the inflation as a priority. While SPP discount rate might need to go up any time now, and there is a possibility that as a prior condition for release of the next tranche of IMF. So we are also negotiating with IMF. So we might need to raise the discount rate, which is now at a very low level. And of course, we have a better than expected recovery from COVID-19. Refinance facilities were given, and they still need a lot of effort, because we also have to capture the informal sector of our economy. Exports see an uptick despite the decline of 19.5% during August, but we have seen an uptick in exports. Imports, of course, have dropped by 20%, partly because of the government policies and partly because of COVID-19 restrictions. And of course, remittances continue to support the overall BOP, and Pakistan foreign direct investment has also grew. Structural issues, the main structural issue is putting IMF program back on track. There are issues coming in that they might not be able to continue with the facility in the coming future, and the government needs to have a sort of a backup plan where they can actually have IMF facility continued. Power sector reforms, the circular debt again is back to now I think it is at its highest peak for 2.2 trillion Pak rupees, and because of the higher cost of power, there is a higher cost of doing business. The government finances reforms of FBR and improving the expenditure management, they are of course paying off, but they are not yet being shown in the provincial and federal budgets. And state-owned enterprises, again, there is a lot of revenue that is being drained on the state-owned enterprises, and the government needs to think on the terms whether they want to keep these companies intact or maybe privatize them. So just looking at the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa now specifically, we have Khyber Pakhtunkhwa's share in the GDP is around 17%, total population is around 17.9%, and the share in country's workforce is 36.3%. And I think this is something that Khyber Pakhtunkhwa government should really take into account, that the level of skill and the workforce that they have, this is something that can actually give them the competitive advantage needed. Looking at the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa budget, there are uncertainties of federal transfers. The provincial owned revenue is under pressure due to longer than expected recovery time, especially with regards to COVID. The services sector could be helped, of course, through the COVID-19 emergency fund, and of course the budgetary allocation has been for several sectors of the services in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. However, utilization rate remains a problem, partly because of a huge informal sector. And of course, Fazal Saab will be talking about the efforts they have put in that have been to convert that informal economy into formal sector. And if we just have a look at the budgetary arrangements that have been made in the previous budget that are focused on services sector, the sales tax on services has been reduced for over 27 categories, and this has been helping with the business support services, construction, oil and gas, hospitality sectors, and bargain centers, and several excise and taxation department duties have also been reduced. These include cinema duties, hotels, event management, marriage halls, and tourism, and similarly other services like construction, tourism, hospitality, health, and education have been given some support in the previous budget. Now, the real question why we are all here is that why enterprises in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa are finding it hard to grow. So first is the land, business space and rental laws, tax compliance cost. There are 36 federal, provincial and local taxes that they have to comply with. And it's just not about paying those taxes, it's about complying with them. So we are talking in those terms. Then there is an access to formal finance, difficult. The formal finance is difficult to get both at the federal and provincial level. Inadequacy of digital payment infrastructure, especially now that we can use these digital payment infrastructures for the across the border trade from Pakistan to Afghanistan. This is where the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa government really needs to think. Then imposition of labor, municipal and environmental laws. Again, there are some of the things in these laws that are obsolete and need to be worked at. There is a weak access for the private sector into public procurement opportunities. So mostly we see very few firms that are actually applying for public procurement opportunities and are actually getting them. And there is a regional and global value chain linkage is very weak, and the information cost, the perception of opportunities in CPEC, for instance, are again very high. So just to get a clarity on the ideas, there are basically 4 ideas that revolve around the PRMI framework, that is the Pakistan Regulatory Modernization Initiative. There is a need for a creation of firm level bankable assets to address financing collateral issues. Alternate risk scoring mechanisms can be used. There is a need for a balanced scorecard approach for enterprise growth. Subcontracting and outsourcing in the development budget to help medium-sized, mid-sized firms, and of course eliminate, automate and rationalize regulatory burden. And there is a need for basically a sort of a regulatory study that can actually help us identify which taxes, which regulatory burden is basically not required. If we talk about the priority areas, and of course this is based on some of the empirical evidence we got from different partners that are working in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. From the services sector, construction services and tourism and hospitality services are most probably the areas of growth, and that is why we have called Ms. Azza here, and she will actually discuss the tourism and hospitality industry sector, what are the challenges, what are the growth patterns there, and of course just to end the presentation, I'll just share that one slide regarding the doing business. So what are the factors that are making firms in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa uncompetitive? So ease of doing business, if you're talking about ease of doing business, I think we need to have a regular study. But the last study that was conducted on major cities in Pakistan, Peshawar came on the 10th position, and which was, and their score was very low. The first position was with Faisalabad, and all the indicators of the doing business were very low with Peshawar. The energy, as I've already discussed, the cost of energy as well as the affordability, availability of energy, both are still a problem. Transportation infrastructure still needs to be improved, especially to the northern side of the province. Rule of law until recently was a very major problem, but this is something that needs continuous improvement, especially with regards to the merged districts. There is a requirement for e-governance, although KP IT board has done considerably well in providing automated governance services, but there is a need for further improvement. And of course, lastly, but the most important aspect is again skill development and human resource management. And of course, we have Bilal Saab here, who is part of the National Incubation Center at Peshawar, and he will be actually guiding us more in this regard. So this is basically just to set the agenda, and I'll hand back to Dr. Waqar to take this forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ahad, for this presentation. I think the presentation raises quite a few points for discussion. And of course, we'll appreciate the take from our panelists as well. So just because we want to have at least 2 rounds here of the discussion, so in the interest of timekeeping, if I can request all the panelists for around 7 to 8 minutes of their initial intervention, and then we'll come back to you for the second round as well. Meanwhile, of course, you can see that our attendees and our audience has also started to post questions in the chat box. So I'll appreciate if some of you would like to respond to that as well. With this, if I can move to our first panelist, which is Ms. Azza Atiq for her interventions, please. Ms. Azza.
Thank you so much, Ahad, and it's a great honor, Waqar, to be part of this panel. I had a extensive experience of working in Singapore with the local government, and we do work with the Singapore Tourism Board. And I was lucky to spend some time in KP and understand the ground realities, honestly speaking, because tourism is a very new subject in Pakistan. So the areas where, when I look at your presentation as well, there are a lot of concerns, but the thing is we need to understand where everything starts. Do we actually understand what exactly is tourism? I feel for till now we are struggling to understand what tourism actually is. Tourism itself is not a standalone industry. Tourism is a combination or a connection of different industries. That is very important point for you to understand the quality of services as well as the quality of business and the right ecosystem for tourism. So when it comes to tourism, tourism includes your hospitality industry, which is one of the biggest industries, but it includes other industries like your logistics, transportation, your F&B, and for that matter, your entertainment industry. And if you connect all of them digitally, is then you talk about service. And what is a service? Service is a system which facilitates people and which creates quality to their experience, brings quality. So when I come to that, I can say that there are a lot of regulations. I can see there are a lot of legislations that have been going on in Pakistan. But when it comes to particularly service, the hospitality sector, as well as your experience sector, which is your tourism, as in tourist experience when he's at a certain location, starts immediately from the point where he starts to think that he wants to visit a place. And that starts right from the point where your foreign services comes, foreign office services comes, from your visa regulations to your, so sorry, I'm sorry, there is a pop-up window opened here. Sorry. So right from the time your tourist decides to come visit Pakistan, do you have easy visa regulations, your visa policies, access online payments, your payment gateways, are they rightly integrated? I personally know where people have experienced that they are unable to pay online the visa fee and unfortunately decide not to travel because it's a big difficulty for them. So these are a few things. Then your digital platforms, which can actually give you right research data, which you can use to project certain class or classification of certain tourists who can come to Pakistan and revisit. It's not a one-off thing that a tourist will come and will not never come back. So we need to, these are very important pointers that we need to understand to move forward with this discussion. And then when you come to the infrastructure, and I talk infrastructure and talk about logistics and I talk about trade, then comes your small and medium industries as well, because that is where you're empowering them. And that is also something very important that I think at later stage we need to discuss also, that hospitality comes and then your SMEs come and empowerment of those SMEs come in. And if I talk focus to the KP, it has 35 million plus million population, and a lot of that population is youth. And how are we utilizing that youth in providing better services, better infrastructure, and better quality is what I think will make a big difference. And I think I would like to continue on that and would like to focus on these areas actually in my presentation later on. So
thank you very much.
Would you like me to add any other thing?
Atiq, I think these were some very important points, particularly around integrating the tourism subsectors digitally. So thank you very much. And if I can now request Mr. Bilal Farooq Khan for his interventions. I understand that NIC Peshawar has been doing some very good work, and the startups, of course, faced a very difficult time. And we'd really like to hear what kind of regulatory support is much needed at this point in time. Bilal sir.
Yeah, thank you, Waqar, for having me. Thank you, Ahad and STBI team. So again, number one, sort of our mission is to get people to come towards entrepreneurship and sort of try and make them at least try to do a startup, right? Because again, as we know, as compared to other cities of Pakistan, the startup ecosystem in Peshawar or KB for that matter is pretty nascent. People prefer fresh graduates would prefer rather going for jobs than starting their own businesses. So again, for us, it is sort of we preach entrepreneurship in universities, schools, and colleges first, and then we try to get them on board, and then go on from there. So again, when you convince someone that they shouldn't go for a job and they should start their own startup, so again, if any hurdles come their way, they get discouraged and they sort of get their attention get diverted, and they'll do something else rather than own startup. So again, starting off, one of the earliest sessions that we do with our startups is SECP. So we have an MOU signed with the SECP, and they send over the resource persons who come and they sit with our startups and they discuss all of that. So again, the registration process has become quite simplified. Most of the information is available online, but at the end of the day, you have to go to the office, right? So everything is available online, but for that one signature, for that one sort of, you have to show your presence and you have to go to the office. So again, it sort of kills the entire experience of the online registration of your company if you actually physically have to go to the office, right? So again, that is one of the biggest hurdles that we hear from our startups. Then again, payment gateways is a very big problem for our startups, right? So a lot of startups that, so let's make one thing clear, NIC Peshawar is a tech incubator. So we work with startups who have developed some sort of a technology, but the problem is when they develop that technology, most of their customer base isn't in Peshawar or in KP because of the sort of income levels. People can't afford their products or their applications or whatever they've made. So most of their target market, they're looking at people settled abroad, or they're looking at people settled in other provinces or bigger cities, right? So again, payment gateways in that matter becomes a very big issue if they can't sort of correspond with their clients, they can't take payments, they can't send payments. So again, that is again a very big issue that we see being faced by our startups. So again, number one, registration is a very big issue. Payment gateway is a very big issue, right? And sort of the banking policy for startups, right? And the government sort of project policy for startups. So a lot of times our startups face a lot of difficulties getting projects from the government, right? So we're not saying that the government is their sole client, but they're not sort of given an edge over, let's say, a company that's 10, 15 years old, right? So if we're trying to encourage the startup ecosystem, if it's a project and a startup applies, so the startup doesn't even qualify, because the minimum criteria for that particular project would be 10 years, 15 years experience, or quite a vast portfolio, right? So the startup has to start somewhere. A startup can't afford to go get 10 years experience and then apply for a particular government tender, right? So it sort of defeats the purpose. So there should be some sort of an ease of doing business for a startup in that as well. I've mentioned this before as well, the capital regulations need to be eased up a little bit for startups in particular sectors, just to give them some business. If government starts giving business to startups, I think it will show a very promising sort of side of the government support to the startups, that they want the startups to succeed and they want the startup industry to grow. So again, capital regulations has got to be another pain point for our startups that they have communicated over the past few years that we've been managing our setup sort of here.
Thank you, Bilal Saab. And I think your point around startups not qualifying for government projects or the usual procurements by government due to the stringent eligibility requirements, I think this is a very important point, because in many countries we are now seeing that public procurement procedures are being relaxed in COVID times, especially, so that startups or even enterprises at the scale-up stage become eligible to participate. I think I would now like to come to Fazal Amin Saab. Ahad's presentation did point out several new measures which Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Revenue Authority has already taken for improving the sustainability and resilience of enterprises in the province. We'd really like to hear from Fazal Amin Saab if this has improved the chances of micro and small enterprises, the survival chances of micro and small enterprises in the short term, and if this has actually also improved to some extent the compliance of some of the informal sector, because we do understand that the government facilitation, even that provided by the State Bank of Pakistan, requires formalization of the business first before they can access the refinance or cash flow needs which Ahad had pointed out. So Fazal Saab, it's over to you, and thank you for taking time out today, please.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saab. मुझे हमेशा खुशी होती है SDPI के प्लेटफॉर्म को पार्टिसिपेट करने और अपने व्यूज और अपने डिपार्टमेंट को रिप्रेजेंट करते हुए आपसे बड़ा पुराना हमारा राब्ता है, वास्ता है और ताल्लुक है। सबसे पहले जो मैं बात करूंगा कि इसमें कोई शक नहीं कि हम रेवेन्यू कलेक्टिंग एजेंसी हैं, ये तो हमारा जॉब है, लेकिन हमारा जो एटीट्यूड है पूरे ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का, मैं आपके साथ लेटली वो परसेप्शन सर्वे भी उसके रिजल्ट्स भी शेयर करूंगा कि हमारा जो एटीट्यूड है वो प्योर फैसिलिटेशन और वॉलंटरी कंप्लायंस का है। हम डंडे के जोर पर किसी से टैक्स वसूल करना नहीं चाहते, क्योंकि वो बनफ होता है। जब वो डंडा आप इधर उधर करें, उस सेक्टर से थोड़ा हटा के किसी और पे तवज्जो दें, तो वो स्लिप हो जाता है। इसकी जगह हमने वॉलंटरी कंप्लायंस, ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस, फैसिलिटेशन, एजुकेशन, ये हमारे पिलर्स हैं, कलेक्शन के ये हमारे पिलर्स हैं, इसी पर हम फॉलो कर रहे हैं। और अल्लाह का शुक्र है कि आपने कभी KPRA के बारे में मीडिया में या यार दोस्तों से, वर्ड ऑफ माउथ से आपने कभी कंप्लेंट नहीं सुनी कि हम अपने इन्फोर्समेंट में कोई हमने ऐसा अनड्यू हैरासमेंट हमने की हो। और उसी इन्हीं पॉलिसीज़ का नतीजा है, हमारी गवर्नमेंट भी ये चाहती है कि कोई सीन ना बने और कलेक्शन आती है, और अदरवाइज भी कि हम कलेक्शन लास्ट ईयर 65% ग्रो कर गई थी एज कम्पेयर टू द प्रीसीडिंग ईयर, और 10 बिलियन से हमने 17.5 बिलियन किया हुआ था। और इसमें आप देख ऐसे इन्फोर्समेंट के मेजर, कोर्सिव मेजर हमने कोई नहीं लिए थे, सिर्फ वॉलंटरी कंप्लायंस ही हमारा। एजुकेशन, क्योंकि कोई टैक्स देना चाहता है, प्रॉब्लम हर किसी को टैक्स पेमेंट में होती है। वो एक सवाल भी आया कि चैट बॉक्स में सवाल आया कि कंप्लायंस कॉस्ट, तो मैं जो साहब है या साहिब है उनको मैं जवाब देना चाहता हूँ कि कंप्लायंस कॉस्ट हमारी इंतहाई मिनिमल है, प्रोसीजर्स हमारे इंतहाई सिंपल हैं। कोई आप इवन हमारे ऑफिस में हमने ये फैसिलिटी दी हुई है कि अगर कोई रिटर्न खुद से जमा नहीं कर सकता तो हमारे पास आए, हम उनकी हेल्प करेंगे। पूरा एक आईटी का डिपार्टमेंट है, और इसी की वजह है कि हमारी जो कंप्लायंस रेशो है वो इस वक्त 82% है, यानी आउट ऑफ 100 रजिस्टर्ड पर्सन 82 are filing regularly with us, they are paying tax with us। और मैं बाकी किसी की वो गिबत नहीं करना चाहता, लेकिन हमारे अलावा भी 4 अथॉरिटीज हैं, 3 प्रोविंशियल और 1 फेडरल। अगर किसी का रेट इतना हुआ तो मेरा नहीं ख्याल कि हमारी कॉस्ट इंतहाई सिंपल है, वजह उसकी एजुकेशन और फैसिलिटेशन है। ये सिर्फ हम अपना इन्फोर्समेंट, हम उस लेवल पर हमारा पॉजिटिव एटीट्यूड नहीं है, बल्कि पॉलिसी भी हम ऐसी लाते हैं जिसमें जो एसएमई है या जो छोटा सेक्टर है, इनफॉर्मल सेक्टर है, उसको मैक्सिमम उसको इनकरेज करें, उसको फैसिलिटेट करें। रेट्स पे बात अहद साहब ने की कि हमने 46 टोटल सर्विसेज हैं, उसमें से 27 या 28 के रेट हमने रिड्यूस, और रिड्यूस भी ड्रास्टिक रिडक्शन है, यानी 15 की जगह 2%, 15 की जगह 5%, 1% का भी रेट है, और 8% तो 10%। तो ये अब पॉलिसी वाइज, और डिस्पाइट ये दूसरा कंटिन्यूस ईयर है कि हम रेट रिड्यूस कर रहे हैं इनफॉर्मल के लिए। पर्टिकुलरली जो फॉर्मल है उसको तो चूंकि ये सप्लाई चेन होती है, एडजस्टमेंट की फैसिलिटी अवेलेबल है, तो हमारा टैक्स बर्डन नहीं करता। जो लिमिटेड कंपनीज है उनको बर्डन नहीं करता, छोटे सेक्टर को बर्डन करता है। लास्ट ईयर हमने रिड्यूस किया था, तब भी हमने कलेक्शन ग्रो की थी, और इस साल भी जो लास्ट कंक्लूडेड ईयर है उसमें भी हमने रिडक्शन की, और वो रिजल्ट्स आपके सामने हैं कि डिस्पाइट कोविड हमने 65% की ग्रोथ दिखाई। इसके अलावा मैं आपको क्या बात, डॉक्टर साहब और कोई आपने कहना है? क्योंकि जो स्टेटिस्टिक्स है वो फिगर है, या जो रेट रिडक्शन है वो तो आहद साहब ने भी आपको बता दी। इसके अलावा मेरा इनपुट अगर किसी बात पे चाह रहे हैं तो मैं स्पेसिफिकली उसी पे आ जाऊं।
जी फजल साहब, वेरी ब्रीफली बिफोर आई मूव टू मिसबा साहिबा, अब इस वक्त जो है अगले 1 या 2 क्वार्टर्स की क्या आउटलुक है? बिकॉज ऑलरेडी हमें जो अभी तक असेसमेंट्स आ रही हैं, वर्ल्ड बैंक की भी रिपोर्ट आपके सामने है कि इकोनॉमिक एक्सपेंशन जो है वो ज्यादा तवक्को नहीं की जा रही। कल आईएमएफ की भी जो इकोनॉमिक आउटलुक आई है उसमें भी इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ जो है वो ज्यादा फोरकास्ट नहीं की जा रही। सो अगर ग्रोथ जो है वो डिप्रेस्ड है, और नेचुरली खैबर पख्तूनख्वा रेवेन्यू अथॉरिटी के ऊपर जो है वो तो प्रेशर रहेगा रेवेन्यू मोबिलाइजेशन का, तो किस तरीके से आप बैलेंस करेंगे अपने मैंडेट को, और जो 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 इस वक्त जो इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटी डिप्रेस्ड है उसको भी जाहिर है आपने एक किस्म का सपोर्ट करना है उसके सर्वाइवल को, तो अगले 1 या 2 क्वार्टर्स की आप क्या आउटलुक देख रहे हैं फजल साहब?
जी, सबसे पहले तो मैं आपको एक इनकरेजिंग बात बताऊं कि बाकी पाकिस्तान में है डिस्ट्रेस है, केपी में अनबिलीवेबल है कि इसके अपोजिट है। मैंने आपको अर्ज की कि लास्ट ईयर मेरी ग्रोथ थी 65%, तो मैं ये बात इसलिए करना चाह रहा हूँ कि मेरी बेस ऑलरेडी बड़ी है, यानी उससे पिछले साल के मुकाबले में लास्ट कंक्लूडेड ईयर में 65% पे था, लेकिन इस फर्स्ट क्वार्टर में डॉक्टर साहब मैं अगेन 34% पर हूँ। तो यानी अगेंस्ट अ बिगर बेस में 34, और 34 इज नॉट नॉर्मल। आपको पता है माशाल्लाह आप इकोनॉमिस्ट हैं कि 34 नॉर्मल ग्रोथ नहीं है, वो 10 to 15 तक तो नॉर्मल में और इन्फ्लेशन वगैरह में आप ले सके, लेकिन 34 इज अ वेरी गुड अचीवमेंट जो हमारी है। और इसका रीजन मैंने जो हमारे कुछ मेजर थे कि इन्फोर्समेंट हमारा कितना खूबसूरत और तरीके से है कि कोई हेरासमेंट नहीं है। निगोसिएशन पे हम हर जो ट्रेड की एसोसिएशन है और जो बॉडीज हैं उनके साथ हम इंटरेक्ट करते हैं, उनको बोर्ड लेते हैं और थ्रू देम हम उनके मेंबर्स को उनको फैसिलिटेट भी करते हैं, उनसे टैक्स भी लेते हैं। तो ये हमारा थोड़ी सी खुशकिस्मती है कि बाकी रेवेन्यू अथॉरिटीज का तो मैं नहीं कह सकता, वो आपको दोनों वो फिगर आपके सामने है, लेकिन जो सबसे अच्छी फिगर है वो 16% की है और वो सिंध की है। और इसके हमने जो फैसिलिटेशन उसको इंश्योर किया है। आज से 7-8 साल पहले तक हम सिर्फ पेशावर से ऑपरेट कर रहे थे, लेकिन अभी हमने नॉर्दर्न एरिया जिसको टबादा हजारा डिवीजन, वहाँ पर फुल फ्लेज ऑफिस है, और साउदर्न जो पार्ट है ऑफ द केपी जो कोहाट बनुडी खान जिसको कहते हैं वहाँ पर ऑफिस है, और मर्दान जो सेंट्रल है वहाँ पर है। तो ये फैसिलिटेशन, ये आउटरीच, ये एजुकेशन और जो रेट रिडक्शन, ये ऐसी चीजें हैं कि हमने मैं कहता हूँ गैम्बल ही किया कि रेवेन्यू अथॉरिटीज कभी सजेस्ट नहीं करती कि मैं रेट लोअर करूं, क्योंकि आपका टारगेट हमेशा इंक्रीज ही होता है। लास्ट ईयर मैंने 17.5 किया, इस साल का मेरा टारगेट 20.5 है। तो 3 बिलियन मुझे और भी ज्यादा करने हैं, लेकिन इसके बावजूद हमने 27 सर्विसेज में रिडक्शन की है, और सो फार वो रिडक्शन हमें पॉजिटिव, क्योंकि हम उसका बेस बढ़ा रहे हैं। तो पहले अगर 4 लोग 10% से दे रहे थे, अब 8
फजल साहब, जस्ट अ क्वेश्चन हियर फजल साहब, ये जो ग्रोथ है ये किन सेक्टर्स में आप देख रहे हैं? जो रेवेन्यू कलेक्शन में ग्रोथ आई है इस क्वार्टर में भी, वो कौन से ऐसे 2 या 3 सर्विसेज सेक्टर्स हैं जिनमें ग्रोथ आ रही है?
जी बिल्कुल, मैं बल्कि आपको एक बता देता हूँ जिसमें ग्रोथ इतनी सब्सटेंशियल नहीं और वो बड़ी लॉजिकल है। हॉस्पिटैलिटी सेक्टर मेरा भी स्टिल रिवाइव नहीं कर सका, क्योंकि शादी हाल तो आपका आज तक ऑलमोस्ट बंद है, और जो रूम सर्विस है होटल जिसको कहें वो भी बड़ा लेटली शुरू हुआ है। रेस्टोरेंट में भी सिर्फ डिलीवरी सर्विस पे मुझे, तो वहां पे मैं सिर्फ वो सेक्टर बता रहा हूँ जहाँ पर ग्रोथ नहीं है, ठीक है ना। तो हॉस्पिटैलिटी में मुझे कोविड की वजह से सीरियस सेटबैक हुआ है। ये पास 1 बिलियन की इंडस्ट्री टैक्स के में मैं कह रहा हूँ ऑलमोस्ट, अगर नॉर्मल हालात और जिस तरह हमारी पॉलिसीज चल रही हैं तो वी एक्सपेक्ट कि ये 1 बिलियन की इंडस्ट्री है। तो वहां से मुझे सीरियस सेटबैक है। अब खुशकिस्मती से और बदकिस्मती से भी एट द सेम टाइम कोविड के आने से बहुत सारा आईटी का या जो टेलीकॉम है वो बहुत एक्सपोनेंशियली ग्रो कर रही है। इवन आप देखिए आज हम, इससे पहले आप हमें बुलाते थे इस्लामाबाद और अभी हम जूम पे हैं, तो ये देखिए ये सारा वो जो उसका रेवेन्यू है वो तो अथॉरिटीज को मिलेगा, क्योंकि वो फिजिकल इंटरेक्शन अब बहुत कम हो गई है। तो टेलीकॉम इज दी वन ऑफ द बिगेस्ट वो जो सेक्टर है हमारे रेवेन्यू के लिहाज से। बैंक्स, इंटरेस्टिंगली बैंक्स, इंश्योरेंस और कंस्ट्रक्शन इंडस्ट्री, चूंकि उसको हमने पहले 3 महीने में फ्रॉम अप्रैल टू जून हमने एग्जेम्पशन दी थी पीएम साहब के कहने से, लेकिन अभी जुलाई से जब वो उसको हमने दोबारा रिवाइव किया है लाइक एनी अदर अथॉरिटी, तो उससे भी बड़ी अच्छी है इंक्रीज है उसमें। तो ये सेक्टर है जिसमें हमें सिर्फ जी।
Thank you, Fazal Saab, and we'll just come back to you in the second round as well. These are some very important insights. May I now move to Ms. Misbah Faiz Sahiba for her interventions, please. Ji, please.
Okay, thank you very much. So, first of all, introducing myself, I'm Mispa and founder of Khawateen Rozgar Services. So, since हमारी ये regulations की बात अभी already चल रही थी, फजल साहब ने भी काफ़ी input वगैरह दी, so I would start from here, and यहाँ से जो है we'll move on to the other points. So, first of all, बात यहाँ पे हो रही थी compliance की, कि compliance increase हुई and ये सारी बातें हुई थी. उन्होंने बताया फजल साहब ने from the point of view of a regulatory authority. Now, I want to come towards the point of view of a business entity, from the point of view of an SME. The thing is that कि compliance अगर KP में increase हुई है, that is something very good. लेकिन the reasons increase हुई है, that is again something we have to get into. So, Fazil Saab, is it really the IT department and everything which is working very strong, or is it even the notices that KEPRA keeps on sending to the business entities? कि अगर इस deadline तक आपने जो है, for example, ये जमा नहीं कराया, these are the consequences you are going to face. So this is something very important to see कि आप business को अगर facilitate करें, आप किस तरीके से करें. अगर आप businesses की compliance increase करना चाह रहे हैं, अगर उनकी तरफ आ रहे हैं, it's not just about increasing the compliance and getting, returns through there are different ways. And then you have to see कि क्या आपके तरीके से businesses भी इतने खुश हैं कि नहीं. So that is another thing which you have to come towards. And I'm telling this from my personal experience. So another thing which I have noticed is that आपके जो ये government departments में एक ये वाली चीज़ बहुत होती है, they are not as much active as a business entity would want them to be. Because businesses have deadlines जो कि उनको अपनी भी meet करनी होती हैं. उन्होंने अपनी एक पूरी timeline बनानी होती है जिसके accordingly they are going. And government department जो है वो business के timeline के नहीं, अपने timeline के accordingly चल रहे होते हैं. So it at times feel that these government departments are working for themselves and not for the businesses. So this is what happens. And अभी इसी में अगर आप KEPRA का online system देख लें जाके, for a startup or for an SME, it is not a very user-friendly environment. I believe कि अगर उनका सिर्फ जो online system है, how आप जैसे compliance अपनी सारी करते हैं, अगर उसको improve कर दिया जाए, मेरे ख्याल में tax reduction की जहाँ पे बात आ जाती है ना, जो KEPRA tax reduction वगैरह कर रहे होते हैं, that is something to encourage कि अगर वो आज 10 रुपए का टैक्स दे रहे हैं तो कल वो 50 रुपए का दें, कि उनको encourage करता है कि भाई आप और आए, आप अपनी सारी चीज़ें शो करें. But the whole point is कि क्या आपका system इतना आसान है कि SMEs या startups आके actually उस पे they want to come and do the compliance. That's the whole point. So the thing is that कि आपकी ये जो reduction और ये वाली schemes आते हैं, that is good to encourage the businesses. But the whole point comes, do they really want to do the compliance or not? क्या आपके systems ऐसे हैं, क्या आपका department ऐसा है कि वो कहते हैं कि हाँ, we should come and do that. So that is one point. The other thing is that अच्छा grants की भी बीच में बात हुई थी, कि grants होते हैं, different funds वगैरह government announce करती है. So yeah, it's very good that they do announce, but again coming to the point कि ये जो grants वगैरह या funds भी announce होते हैं, वो businesses के लिए announce होते हैं, लेकिन उनका जो तरीका कार है वो government अपने तरीके से लेके जाती है, not for the businesses. Just for example, अभी KP में पीछे मार्च में एक grant announce हुआ था, ठीक है? Now अगर grants announce होते हैं तो first of all there is no timeline for that कि ये grant कब मिलेगा, because businesses have to do planning. Service sector हो या जो भी sector हो, products वाले हो, they have to come up with some kind of planning even according to the grants, because they have to meet their deadlines, they have to meet their revenue targets, they have to meet their जितने भी targets आपने year end के किए हुए होते हैं, and grants really do support. But if they are not according to timeline of the businesses and they are according to the timeline of the government, then this is again an issue. अब जो मार्च में जो grant announce हुआ था, अक्टूबर में उसकी जो है process actually start हुआ, you can say. And although उसका वो होना चाहिए था कि even due to COVID थोड़ा speed up कर लेते हैं सब कुछ, no. So what happened was that October में उन्होंने कहा कि आप resubmissions करें of the grant that you submitted. And अभी भी अगर आप government से पूछे, so what are the tentative dates that the grants are going to be released, they would just tell you, we cannot tell you anything right now because they themselves don't know, because there are so many factors that impact those release of the funds कि वो लोग उनको खुद ही पता होता है कि that we cannot give a specific date. तो अगर आप मार्च से लेके देखिए अक्टूबर तक भी कह रहे हैं कि वी रियली डोंट नो, वी कैन नॉट गिव अ डेट, प्रोसेस अभी आपका जाके स्टार्ट हो रहा है. सो दीज थिंग्स आर गुड कि गवर्नमेंट चीज़ें अनाउंस करती है, बट इट डिपेंड्स कि आप कितने एफिशिएंटली उसको एग्जीक्यूट करते हैं. So there's this lack of efficiency which I usually see in these systems. So अब इसी में एक और चीज़ आ जाती है, पीछे लोन्स भी अनाउंस हुए थे, बड़े ज़बरदस्त लोन्स अनाउंस हुए थे, नो डाउट, very less interest rate, everything. लेकिन now coming to the ground fact that they were even very much encouraging for the females as well. लेकिन आप जाएं वहाँ पे अप्लाई करने, you have to mortgage your personal assets, जिसकी वजह से बहुत से लोगों ने नहीं भी किया. Although a very good initiative, बड़े कम इंटरेस्ट रेट पे होते हैं, नो डाउट, दैट इज समथिंग वेरी गुड. लेकिन मॉर्गेज के अलावा भी दे शुड डू ब्रेनस्टॉर्मिंग, दे शुड कम अप विद सम ऑल्टरनेट वेज. क्योंकि अगर आप किसी के पर्सनल एसेट्स उसके अगेन उसका घर मॉर्गेज करें, so not everyone is obviously comfortable with that. So there has to be a way out which needs to be brainstormed further in this regard. Yes, Waqar.
Thank you, Ms. I really appreciate these inputs, and I think your first-hand experience in this sector certainly helps in giving an appraisal of where the regulatory regime stands. Of course, on your point regarding making the online tax system more taxpayer friendly, we will of course request Fazal Saab later, just a while later, to respond to that, and if there are any plans to improve. But before that, if I can go back to Ms. Azza Atiq, because I think the point raised by Fazal Saab around the hospitality sector was important. And what he's actually pointed out is that it's going to be longer than expected before recovery in this sector takes place, which is worrisome, of course. And in the face of the second wave or the future rounds of COVID-19, we now understand that this one-off support provided to the SMEs in the hospitality sector may not be enough. So I think a first question for Azza would be that what more can be done by the government at a policy level, at a regulatory level? And maybe a second related question could be, if we have examples from how other countries are supporting the hospitality sector. I do understand that various other countries, particularly in the Asia Pacific, have far more advanced hospitality, much more mature hospitality sector, and they must be thinking in this direction as well. So some advice from your side, Azza, would really help here, please.
Thank you, Waqar. A couple of things I would like to point out here is, unfortunately, in Pakistan, we are already far behind other countries when it comes to tourism sector. So we are lucky in a way that we are hit by COVID. Honestly speaking, I might be sounding very optimistic here by that statement, because when I look at Pakistan, unfortunately, हमारी government ने और हमारे एजुकेशन सेक्टर ने इन्वेस्ट ही नहीं किया हॉस्पिटैलिटी एजुकेशन के ऊपर. हमारे पास प्रॉपर ट्रेनिंग्स नहीं है, हमारे proper education nahi hai, how our quality standards met with the international standards. I think it's an opportunity for us, because now while the the whole world was living at a 2.9 trillion industry of inbound tourism in their respective cumulative अगर आप उसको देखें, Pakistan was nowhere. अब हमारे पास ये opportunity है because everything is at standstill and we can come and pace up our progress to reach over there. So what I would suggest is कि हम इस opportunity को avail करके firstly let's train, make it an opportunity to educate more people so they are compliant to the international standards of tourism. First thing. Second thing, आपने जो बात की कि Asia Pacific की कि यहाँ पे लोग बहुत ज़्यादा progress कर रहे हैं और tourism still has been hit really bad. उसकी वजह यह है कि पाकिस्तान, unlike Pakistan, यहाँ पे international tourists बहुत आता था. It's at standstill at the moment. So what people like Singapore government is pushing for the locals to do staycations, hotels में जाके रहे ताकि hospitality industry उससे affect ना हो. Pakistan में I say we are very lucky कि domestic tourism चल रही है. You're still open. People are going. In fact, somebody commented, I saw on the comments chat box that there are more hotels than there are tourists at the moment. And the thing is कि आपकी hospitality industry इस वक्त struggle इस चीज़ पे नहीं करी कि आपके पास जो है वो tourist आ रहा है और समझ नहीं आ रहा कि आप control कैसे करें. The issue is आपके पास अगर tourist नहीं आ रहा और आपके पास एक opportunity कि आप उसको improve कैसे कर सकें. I feel this is something that we have to really look into. Our universities need to introduce courses. We need to have collaborations with international colleges के जो हमारे लोगों को educate करें, not only on hospitality, on catering. I will give you an example. I had an experience of bringing some chefs from Pakistan to Singapore, and we were able to host a few events where we introduced Pakistan's food to this area. The interesting part is कि हमारे chefs are not qualified to meet the international standards of handling food. It's a very important point for you to understand. Do we meet international standards in hospitality, catering, accommodation? Do our hospitals and hotels and hospitality sector have enough power to define regulations that they can say no to a tourist coming because of ethics reasons, because of payment frauds or something else? So these are a lot of important points that we need to look into. Secondly, this is a right time for us to brand us on global forums while work in the background on improving our quality. So आप दो चीजें कर रहे हैं simultaneously. This is an opportunity like Saudi Arabia is doing now. They are bringing up their brand on international platforms as a next tourist location. So we have to bring it as a global brand. And I think these are the areas we need to work, because hospitality, unfortunately, I don't feel that looking into the tourism industry at the moment for next year or so, that things will come back where you can say economically you can work on things. You can improve, you can make use of this time. Secondly, empower your youth. Like I saw with Bilal Sahab was also talking about entrepreneurship. You have 60% plus youth in Pakistan, empower them, give them opportunities to start their own small, medium businesses in retail sector, merchandise sector, in hospitality sector, Airbnb sector. There are a lot of those, and make it easy for them to do business in Pakistan. Ease of starting a business, ease of getting loans, ease for workshops. Government should come up with the grants where these kids can be given 6 months trainings, which will be at subsidized should be free from government to educate youngsters. I think this is something that we can really do, and I feel that is my input in this.
Thank you, Azza. This is really helpful. And I think your example of taking Pakistani resource to Singapore and your experience, I think that was very telling and something which we can learn for other sectors as well. You are hearing that these aren't probably the best times at this moment where startups would come forward or startups would take initiatives. It becomes difficult to sort of forecast your future cash flows or pitch your business models to businesses for raising credit. But I would like to sort of understand what this means for NIC. What you have seen in the past 1 or 2 quarters have new firms come in at the NIC circuit, and how are the graduates from your sector feeling about the market situation? We do realize that it's not going to ease in the next one, 2 or 3 quarters, given the anticipated second wave. So what does this actually mean for NIC and its incubatees in the short term?
Yeah, so again, as I said, most of our startups have sort of a technological element to them, be it sort of e-commerce or digital marketing or all of that. So all of the startups who were related to sort of the e-commerce industry have actually they've shown growth during the COVID-19 times, because as we all know, that everything sort of went online. So again, the rest of our startups, those who were able to pivot and sort of offer services related to COVID or offer services in response to COVID. So again, those have been successful as well. So again, I'd say that it hasn't been very impactful on our startup support situation. On a bigger picture, I'd say that it has been more beneficial, as it has been for all e-commerce businesses in Pakistan. And again, because I think most of these businesses, because startups, they're operating on a small scale. So I think it wasn't that impactful for them. Yes, those startups who actually were physically present in the market, those have been those have suffered. But other businesses, another very good thing was that those businesses who were actually present in the physical market, in the physical space, they actually thought for the first time on coming to e-commerce platforms and going digital and going online. And I think in the long run, it's very beneficial for them, because the customers have now sort of gotten a taste of the e-commerce business as well, right? So again, in the long run, as we all know, things are going to be run online. Most of the businesses are going to be shifting online. We're seeing most of the international companies are asking their employees to work from home permanently. So again, it's a global shift towards things going online and going digital. So in the long run, yes, it will be beneficial for our startups. In the short run, it has also been beneficial for our startups. And for example, some of our startups, they started producing stuff that was one of our startups were working on nanomaterials, right? So they pivoted from making thermal insulation materials to making, for example, hand sanitizers, right? So all of those startups who were able to pivot and sort of innovate in this time.
Bilal sir, if I can ask you a question about sectoral distribution. I think it's been some time that NIC has been around and doing some good work. So what is the sectoral distribution of incubatees and graduates? Which 2 or 3 top sectors do they belong to?
So again, it's a multitude of sectors at NIC. Mostly, I'd say the major chunk is e-commerce. So it is people selling indigenous products to selling, let's say, imported goods from China online. So again, a big chunk of it is e-commerce. Then we've got this, I think, another big chunk would be service industry. So I'm really proud to see Misbah here. She's one of our graduated startups as well. So again, other startups such as Misbah have been graduated from NIC and they're operating in the service sector. And then we've got a very small chunk of those startups who are actually making technology products, right? For example, one of our startups from our first cohort is working on a device which is used for electrosurgery. It's an electrosurgical unit that used in cutting and coagulation and during surgeries. Another one of our startups is working on a device that is used to do early detection of thalassemia in patients. Then 2 of our startups are actually working on EV technologies. They've developed their EV bikes. So again, 1 or 2 startups from each cohort, you can say, are those who are developing hardcore technological products. And the rest of the chunk is sort of divided between the service industry and the e-commerce industry.
Yes, and as you rightly said, Bilal, that many of your enterprises have graduated as well. Do we have any example or examples where the graduates have actually started exporting their goods and services? Have they become exporters as well?
So again, interestingly, coming to the regulation. So when I talked about the startup that makes electrosurgical units, it's called Appriss Technologies, right? So Appriss made a device that is up to par with international standards. It's way advanced in all aspects that on the devices that you have in the local market. Unfortunately, they applied for the CE registration, that is for the European countries. They got the CE registration, but they had applied for the DRAP registration. And it's been 2 years still struggling to get DRAP registration because of the slow processes that we have in Pakistan. Right? So an international body has recognized them, but a local body fails to do so over the past 2 years. Right? So again, there are some hurdles, but they are looking at exporting this product. Again, COVID has been a hurdle in that export part of it, but in the local market, they're doing pretty good. And they're actually looking at exporting the product to countries, our neighboring countries, such as Afghanistan, and you can say Iran and Azerbaijan and all of those places, right? So the contracts are in place, everything is there. They're just waiting for a sort of an approval from DRAP. And a few other regulations that once those are cleared, they'll be able to export their products abroad. But again, I'd say foreign regulatory bodies are more compliant towards their product than the Pakistani sort of government we have here. So that's one example. Other examples, we do have some startups that are actually those used to import products from China, but they sort of then figured out how they can make those products locally. For example, there was a startup called 11.pk. They used to sell these backpacks online. So they used to import in bulk from China. So then they took a few samples to Faisalabad and Sialkot, and then they figured out that these bags can be manufactured here in Pakistan. So they sort of became manufacturers, then importers, and now they're selling local products to a sort of global market. So again, e-commerce, most of our e-commerce players are shipping globally and locally. But one of the Appriss has to be the only sort of product from NIC Peshawar that is ready to ship abroad once they have the right certification.
This is very helpful, Bilal. Thank you very much indeed. And I think if there are more examples such as these, you know, it's very welcoming to see Pakistani enterprises getting integrated into global value chains through, of course, exporting and FDI channels. So I would like to turn
so again, if I could just add one thing. So again, looking at, as I said earlier, a lot of our startups, when we ask them to start a business, so the products they're coming up with, especially the innovative products that I said, the electrosurgical devices, the sort of the screening of thalassemia and all of those. So again, our sort of the customer base at large cannot afford these products because of their innovative nature. They tend to be expensive than whatever is available in the local market. So the government really needs to support these startups in exporting these, right? For example, it doesn't have to be exported to the US. It doesn't have to be exported to Europe or the UK for that matter. It can be exported to, let's say, Turkmenistan, Azerbaijan, to Afghanistan, right? So again, the government needs to support startups, especially those innovative startups working in the technology field, that which problems are they solving globally and how can the government help their product get an international?
Agreed. Thank you. And Ahad, I think one of the recommendations which really come out of this is that support which is required by the micro and small enterprises, particularly in the services sector, is not just or should not just be limited to tax credit and funding space. It has to be the certification, the product standard measures which need to be met by enterprises, where a bit of hand holding or reskilling, as Azza was also talking about would be required. And I think herein there's a clear role for NAVTEC and TEFTAs as well going forward. Maybe if I can now turn to Fazal Amin Saab to not only respond to what Ms. Misbah Faiz was talking about, that further measures need to be taken to sort of be the online systems of CAPRA need to be made more taxpayer friendly. Of course, we do understand that there is a minimum level of knowledge which is required to fill in the requirements at the online portal by CAPRA. But I believe that CAPRA has already taken some measures to enhance taxpayer education. He could brief on that as well. But I think mainly the point by Misbah was important, that even despite of that, those measures taken in the taxpayer education space, if people are still finding it difficult to go online and fulfill their tax liability, what would be the new measures which CAPRA is planning to undertake to further simplify the online system? Fazal Sahab, it's over to you.
जी जी सबसे पहले तो मैं मिसबा साहिबा को उन्होंने जो हमारे टैक्स पेयर उसके एगनी का जिक्र किया कि शायद और खुदा न ख्वास्ता हमने ये कलेक्शन जो उनसे की है, जो इतनी ह्यूज हमारी सक्सेस है लास्ट ईयर और इवन इन दिस ईयर फर्स्ट क्वार्टर, ये हम कोई आम ट्विस्टिंग कर रहे हैं, ऐसी कोई बात नहीं है। हमारा परसेप्शन सर्वे 2 दफा हुआ है, एक फरवरी में बिफोर कोविड और एक जुलाई में। जो परसेप्शन के रेट्स हैं वो ड्रेस्टिकली वो भी इम्प्रूव हुए हैं। यानी फरवरी में आज की जो मेरी जो परसेप्शन का सर्वे का रिजल्ट है कि 92% ऑफ द टैक्स पेयर, और ये टैक्स पेयर मैं आपको बता दूं कि 1000 मेरे टोटल 10-11 हज़ार टैक्स पेयर हैं, लेकिन 1000 का सैंपल लिया गया था और उनसे ऑनलाइन और 20 वर्ल्ड बैंक ने भी बंदे दिए थे, उनके थ्रू ये इंटरव्यू हुआ, तो उसका रिजल्ट 92% है, जो कि हमारे प्रोसेसेस से, हमारी एफिशिएंसी से, हमारी इनकरप्टेबिलिटी से, इन सब चीज़ों से वो मुतमईन है। तो ग्रोथ मैं अगेन कहता हूँ कि प्योर फैसिलिटेशन और एजुकेशन पर है, और हमारा जो सिस्टम है वो एंड टू एंड ऑटोमेटेड है। इंटरेक्शन हमारे लोगों का मिनिमल है। हमारे मकसद जो कलेक्टर्स हैं हमारे, उनका इंतहाई कम इंटरेक्शन है। हर काम हमारा ऑनलाइन है, पेमेंट ऑनलाइन है, रिटर्न फाइलिंग ऑनलाइन है, नोटिस ऑनलाइन है। तो ये रीज़न है कि मतलब जो हमारी खुशकिस्मती है कि हमारे सिस्टम प्रोसेसेस वो सारे ऑनलाइन है, इसलिए करप्शन के भी इश्यूज ना होने के बराबर हैं, और कलेक्शन में भी एफिशिएंसी भी है और ईज भी है। लेकिन जाहिर बात है पूरा पाकिस्तान तो पढ़ा लिखा है नहीं, IT लिटरेट तो है नहीं। तो मैंने अर्ज ये की थी कि ना सिर्फ हेड ऑफिस यानी पेशावर में, बल्कि हमने 4-5 और ऑफिसेस भी खोले हैं जहां हम ये छोटे टैक्स पेयर को फैसिलिटेट करते हैं, और उनकी तरफ वो जो रिटर्न और वो जो सारी चीज़ें होती हैं वो है। इसके बाद सिस्टम इम्प्रूवमेंट और IT की तरफ भी बात की मिसबा ने, तो हमने एक प्रोग्राम लॉन्च करना है अभी, उसको रिम्स कहते हैं, रेस्टोरेंट इनवॉइस मैनेजमेंट सिस्टम। उसमें हमने इंसेंटिव ये रखा है कि अगर कोई हॉस्पिटैलिटी सेक्टर में हमारे साथ ये ऑनलाइन POS पॉइंट ऑफ सेल की बात कर रहा हूँ, अगर वो करता है तो बाकी रेस्टोरेंट जो नहीं होगा नॉन POS वो 8% का टैक्स देगा, और ये जो होगा ये 5% का टैक्स देगा। एक हमने ये किया है। और दूसरा आसानी की बात उन्होंने ये की कि हम कितना ईज ला रहे हैं। तो जो लोग ये POS हमारे इंस्टॉल करेगा उनके लिए हम प्री पॉपुलेटेड रिटर्न, यानी सिस्टम ही हमारे सिस्टम से उसकी परचेजेस और उसके अपने सिस्टम से सेल उठाएगा, और जो नेट पेबल अमाउंट होगी वो शो करेगा। तो हम पर्टिकुलरली, मैं बार बार जिक्र कर रहा हूँ कि जो SME है और जो छोटा टैक्स पेयर है उस पर जितनी मेरी तवज्जो है, उसकी कंप्लाइंस कॉस्ट भी मैं नहीं बढ़ाना चाहता, उनकी और भी इश्यूज में रिजॉल्व करना चाहता हूँ। कंपनीज को कोई इशू नहीं है टेलीकॉम के, अमूमन वो टेलीकॉम से तो हम सीखते हैं, उनके इतने प्रोसेसेस इतने एडवांस है कि हम कुछ चीजें हम उनसे सीखते हैं। तो मेरा टारगेट हमेशा से छोटा टैक्स पेयर और SME है, और ये रेट भी मैंने उन्हीं के लिए रिड्यूस किया। देखिए आप, मेरा फॉर्मल सेक्टर में मैं टेलीकॉम पे 19.5% ले रहा हूँ, और हॉस्पिटैलिटी के लिए मैंने 5% किया हुआ है। तो आप जमीन आसमान का फर्क देखिए, वो भी सर्विस है, ये भी सर्विस है। तो हमने सिस्टम को भी इम्प्रूव किया है। और एक और जो अपना है आज़ा साहिबा, उन्होंने भी एक वो हॉस्पिटैलिटी से रिलेटेड है स्पेसिफिकली, बाकी रेट की बात तो है कि जो नॉर्दर्न एरियाज हमारे हैं, हजारा डिवीजन या कागान नारायण, उसके लिए एक स्पेशल पैकेज हम ला रहे हैं कि बाकी KP में जो होटल का जो रेट है कारपोरेट में 15% आपको रूम सर्विस के रूम चार्जेस के आपको टैक्स देना पड़ता है, और जो नॉन कारपोरेट है उसमें 10 है। लेकिन हिल स्टेशन या जो पर्टिकुलर कागान नारायण है उसके लिए हम 5% की समरी हमने की हुई है, और अभी तो सीजन उनका ऑफ हो गया। नेक्स्ट सीजन से आप देखेंगे कि होटल जो नारायण कागान और हजारा में है उनको हम सिर्फ 5% देंगे। तो ये हम भी फील करते हैं कि कोविड ने सीरियस इम्पैक्ट किया है हॉस्पिटैलिटी को, तो इसलिए ये हमारी पॉलिसी कुछ डिसीजन है जो मैं शेयर कर रहा हूँ। इसके अलावा एक आखिरी बात कि जो ऑनलाइन पेमेंट का सिस्टम है, तो वन लिंक जो सबका एक प्लेटफॉर्म पे तमाम बैंक्स को उन्होंने जमा किया हुआ है, स्टेट बैंक का उसको अप्रूवल दी हुई है, लाइसेंस याफ्ता है वो, उनके साथ हमारी निगोशिएशन चल रही है। और हमारा टैक्स पेयर अपने ऑफिस में बैठकर किसी भी बैंक से हमें पेमेंट कर सकेगा। तो मिसबा ने ये भी एक पॉइंट उठाया था। तो ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस में अभी सिर्फ मजबूरी है कि नेशनल बैंक ही सरकारी जो कलेक्शन होती है उसी का वो कलेक्ट करता है, उसका जिम्मेवार है। लेकिन इंशाल्लाह नवंबर में हम तमाम 34-35 बैंक्स जहां पर आपके अकाउंट है, आप अपने ऑफिस में और ऐप के थ्रू उसकी पेमेंट आप KPRA को कर सकते हैं। तो ये डॉक्टर साहब पूछे अगर
फसल साहब, एक सवाल जो मैं आपसे पूछ सकूं, ये बड़ी अच्छा आपने एक मेजर लिया है। ये जो आप परसेप्शन सर्वे की बात कर रहे हैं, दिस इज व्हाट वी कीप ऑन रिक्वेस्टिंग अदर रेवेन्यू एजेंसीज एज वेल कि वो रेगुलर परसेप्शन सर्वे कराया करें। मेरे इसमें सिर्फ दो सवाल हैं। एक तो ये कि ये कितना रेगुलरली कैपरा जो है ये परसेप्शन सर्वे करवा रहा है, और आया आप खुद करते हैं या किसी थर्ड पार्टी को आउटसोर्स करते हैं फॉर इंडिपेंडेंट एडवाइस? और इसी से रिलेटेड दूसरा सवाल ये है कि अब फॉर एग्जांपल अगर खैबर पख्तूनख्वा बेस्ड सर्विसेज सेक्टर इज नॉट पार्ट ऑफ दिस सैंपल जो कि आपके परसेप्शन सर्वे में कैप्चर हुआ है, अगर ऐसी एंटरप्राइजेस हैं जिनकी रिस्पांस आप तक नहीं पहुंची है, वो इस परसेप्शन सर्वे के सैंपल में नहीं थे, तो वो किस तरीके से अपनी एडवाइस या ग्रीवियंसेस जो हैं वो आप तक कम्युनिकेट कर सकते हैं? उसका क्या चैनल है?
डॉक्टर साहब, जो परसेप्शन सर्वे है नंबर 1 तो वो इंडिपेंडेंट है। वो फाइनेंस डिपार्टमेंट जो मेरा एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव डिपार्टमेंट है, वहाँ पर एक फुल ब्राइट स्कॉलर है, वो उसको हेड कर रही है, इंटरनल सपोर्ट यूनिट, ये उन्होंने कराया था। तो एक्चुअली मैं आपको इसकी बैकग्राउंड बताऊं कि हमारी गवर्नमेंट ने हमारे साथ एक अंडरस्टैंडिंग वो दी है हमें कि अगर आप टारगेट से अचीव करोगे तो आपको मैं परफॉर्मेंस बेस्ड इंसेंटिव दूंगा, वो सैलरी की सूरत में, बेसिक सैलरी की सूरत में। लेकिन उसकी कंडीशन है कि मुझे सिर्फ ये नहीं चाहिए कि आप, मैंने 17 का कहा 17 बिलियन कर लिए, 20 का कहा 20 कर लिए, और 25 का कहा तो 25 कर लिए। जो हमारे FM साहब हैं, तैमूर झगड़ा साहब, वो कहते हैं ये तो कोई बात नहीं, आप लोगों का गला दबा देंगे और मेरे लिए 25 बिलियन ले आएंगे। वो कहे ये पॉसिबल है, वो पाकिस्तान में तो पर्टिकुलरली पॉसिबल है। वो कह रहे ये मुझे चाहिए भी साफ सुथरे तरीके से, यानी पैसे भी चाहिए लेकिन साथ में ये भी आपकी परसेप्शन, आपकी जो मार्केट में वो है वो भी खराब नहीं होनी चाहिए। तो ये इंडिपेंडेंट होता है। अच्छा, वो जो इंसेंटिव हमें मिलता है वो इन सर्वे की रिपोर्ट्स पर मिलता है। यानी मैंने 20 बिलियन का टारगेट उन्होंने दिया, मैंने कर लिए, लेकिन मेरा परसेप्शन सर्वे में मैं फेल हो गया तो नो रिवॉर्ड। तो ये वो कंडीशनल है और डॉक्यूमेंटेड, और प्रोविंशियल कैबिनेट ने इसकी अप्रूवल दी हुई। जो बातें मैं कर रहा हूँ ये सारी प्रोविंशियल गवर्नमेंट की अप्रूवल से है। 2 दफा होता है। आपका सवाल एक ये भी था कि कितनी फ्रीक्वेंसी से होता है, तो मैंने अर्ज किया कि लास्ट ईयर फरवरी में हुआ था, और अभी बजट आने के बाद, क्योंकि जून में आपको पता है ये आर्म ट्विस्टिंग बहुत होती है। मैं खुद रेवेन्यू से हूँ, 25 साल से मैं रेवेन्यू से हूँ, मैं कोई ऐसी बात नहीं है। सब ने देखा है कि जून में वो टारगेट के लिए अचीवमेंट के लिए ना आप एडवांसेस भी लेते हो, आर्म ट्विस्टिंग भी करते हो, जगह भी बंद करते हो, सब कुछ करते हो जो जो आप सोच सकते हैं। तो वो उनका कहना था कि अगली मैं कराऊंगा जुलाई में। ताज़ा वो जून गुजरा होगा तो पता चलेगा कि आपने लोगों के साथ क्या किया। तो आप यकीन करें, जो फरवरी में मेरे रिजल्ट थे वो कोई 80% थे, अभी मेरे 92% के हैं। तो वो आप देखें कि वो ओवर द टाइम और भी ज़्यादा इम्प्रूव हुए हैं। जो सैंपल है या जो उसके मैंने आपको अर्ज कर दी थी कि 1000 एग्जैक्ट लोग थे, उसमें से 1000 बहुत बड़ी पॉपुलेशन है, और उसमें हर सेक्टर, और सेक्टर में आप मजीद ये देखें कि हमने जो इंडिविजुअल, जो छोटा टैक्स पेयर है, और जो एओपी है, एसोसिएशन ऑफ पर्सन, और कंपनी, ये हमने ये नहीं किया कि वो 10-12 या 200-300 बड़ी कंपनियों से पूछ लिया, वो वैसे भी खुश होते हैं हमसे। मैं यस करूं कि ये बिल्कुल इसकी इक्वल पार्टिसिपेशन की सबकी, कि छोटे से छोटे रेस्टोरेंट से भी हमने पूछा। रेस्टोरेंट आपने जिक्र किया तो वो इसमें शामिल है। वो पर्टिकुलरली आपके साथ मैं डॉक्टर साहब शेयर भी कर सकता हूँ, क्योंकि वो पब्लिक डॉक्यूमेंट है। उसके जो हमने सवाल फ्रेम किए थे, जो पार्टिसिपेंट्स है और उसकी जो स्टेटस है, हमने रेवेन्यू को नहीं देखा, क्योंकि जो ज्यादा रेवेन्यू देता है वो हमसे नाराज नहीं होते। वो बड़ी कंपनी होती है, उसकी हर चीज स्ट्रीमलाइन होती है। हमसे नाराज छोटा टैक्स पेयर होता है, जिसको समझ नहीं आती कि मैंने ये 1500 रुपए का टैक्स जमा कैसे करना है। तो हमने उन लोगों को भी इसमें लिया है जो मुझे 1500 रुपए का टैक्स महीने का देते हैं। तो बड़ा इम्पार्शल था। कोई हमारे ऊपर, तो इनफैक्ट हम इसको कैसे कंडक्ट कर सकते थे, हमें तो इसी की बुनियाद पर हमने पास या फेल होना था। तो ये हमारी गवर्नमेंट की एक सोच थी, इंतहाई कामयाब रही। अब इस साल के लिए मैं आखिरी बात 1 मिनट ले रहा हूँ कि ये तो पिछले साल जो मैंने जो जुलाई फरवरी में हुआ, इसका रिवार्ड का ताल्लुक का है मेरे साथ केपीआईज, उस पीबीआईएस उसको हम कहते हैं, परफॉर्मेंस बेस्ड इंसेंटिव स्कीम, उसके केपीआईज मेरे साथ अभी से तय हो रहे हैं कि ये काम करोगे तो इतने % आपको रिवार्ड मिलेगा। मतलब 1% के लिए मुझे काम मिलता है, 2% के लिए, 5% के लिए मुझे मुख्तलिफ असाइनमेंट मिलती है, और उसको करने के बाद वो टोटल जब जाता है तो ईयर एंड पे वो होता है। पीबीएस का ये तरीके का है।
Ji, thank you, Fazil Saab. So I think we are now moving to the end of our session. Just a couple of more minutes left. But before that, I just want to come to Ms. Misbah Faiz. I think one of the things which would be relevant for us to ask her is the gender lens in this discussion. So Misbah, what we understand is that there is a debate at the moment whether the ongoing COVID-related crisis has been challenging for businesses in general, or whether it was more hard-pressed for the women-led enterprises, and there could be some gender-specific barriers to business and trade, which COVID may have given rise to. And the literature, of course, is only emerging now. What were those problems specific to women? But I think in your domain, and given that your organization works in these areas, if you can sort of elaborate if women-led enterprises require some special support, regulatory support going forward, particularly in the short term.
Okay, thank you, Waqar. So first of all, due to COVID, I guess कि generally ही सब businesses का काफी impact हुआ है. Services industry specifically, as we know कि जब services आप दे ही ना रहे हो, आपके customers ही ना हो, so it all gets impacted. Buyers आपके नहीं हैं, तो और women का भी ये है कि mostly the women are involved in services industry. आप अगर देख लें parlors की तरफ आ जाएं, so women उसमें आ जाते हैं, services की तरफ आ जाते हैं, फिर आप you know उसकी तरफ आ जाएं, क्या नाम है, ये जो stitching वगैरह के होते हैं, so mainly जो ज़्यादा females involved होती हैं, they are into services industry and that is why उनको ज़्यादा impact no doubt COVID का हुआ है. So I would say कि generally तो वैसे सबको ही हुआ है, लेकिन given the amount of females who are involved in the services, so there has to be some you know better regulations for them. उनको ज़्यादा support करना चाहिए for those businesses who have already been you know in market for some time, जिनका पहले था और फिर कोविड के इस ड्यूरेशन में स्पेसिफिकली उनके रेवेन्यूज जो हैं वो काफ़ी ड्रॉप हुए हैं. सो आई बिलीव कि जितने भी आपके ये हैं, फॉर एग्जांपल ये एक टैक्सेस का भी होना चाहिए स्पेसिफिकली उनके लिए जो सर्विसेज पे यू नो होते हैं, उसके लिए भी. एंड देन स्पेशल ग्रांट्स शुड आल्सो बी अनाउंस फॉर वुमेन, ऑल्दो ग्रांट्स अनाउंस भी हैं, उनमें वुमेन को केपी में देते हैं, दे आर ऑलरेडी गिविंग प्रेफरेंस टू द वुमेन. Lekin again, which I said before, the timelines have to be followed according to the businesses rather than the timelines of the government. That would bring much ease for all the businesses, चाहे वो women के हो या चाहे generally हो. लेकिन अगर हम लोग वैसे देखें, I won't say कि बहुत ज़्यादा कोविड का जो I won't say कि you know कि मेल से comparatively women को मैं ये नहीं कहूँगी कि major setback हुआ है कोविड का. I would still say कि दोनों genders को setback हुआ है, and that is something that they need to fight together. अच्छा, one thing I would like to add is about the HR. पहले ये start में भी ये सर आहद ने अपने presentation में बोला था कि workforce जो है 36.3% KP के इस वक्त काम कर रही है. And HR का मैं थोड़ा सा ये बोलूँगी कि HR का KP में थोड़ा सा issue है. यहाँ पे you usually do not find the kind of human resource you are looking for. Sometimes the issue होता है even अगर आप यहाँ के industrial state में चले जाएं, industrial state जो यहाँ पर है economics वहाँ पे, so the majority of the labor that is you know on job that comes from Punjab. So there is again the kind of labor that people are actually looking for that comes from Punjab. So there is another thing which we need to see, that what are the reasons कि ये सब हो रहा है. Even the very big industries in Peshawar, 4 to 5 industries, उनके जो अगर top के HR managers जो हैं, even they are from Punjab and they are not the local. So there are a lot of things like industries I know they prefer human resource from Punjab rather than KP. So this is another area which really needs to be looked into कि भाई workforce यहाँ के KP के workforce को कैसे और valuable बनाया जा सके कि यहाँ से बाकी provinces की तरफ जाएं, and you know even they can work internationally as well.
Thank you, Ms. Bhatt. This is very helpful. And I think your point on HR is also noted. I think this is also something which needs to be highlighted when one, of course, talks about the skills and the future of skills in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and how that can be facilitated. We did hear in the last session, in the previous session, that there was some public-private partnership model which the government of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa is trying to pursue with the private sector who would be able to provide skills to the local area. But let us just, in the interest of time, I think we would like to remain punctual and close the proceedings on time. So unless the panelists have anything further to add, let me start by thanking all the panelists, as well as the very stimulating discussion, which was, of course, in which our audience and our attendees participated in. So really appreciate them taking out. I understand that we had to remain bilingual, of course, which is something which we encourage, but I now do see some foreigners in our attendees list as well. So in case there was any lack of clarity or any further clarification which may be required by our colleagues who do not understand Urdu, we'll be happy to provide that. So as I said, the transcription as well as the recording will be available to us, and there is going to be a proceedings report, a very brief proceedings report, which we will be submitting to the government of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. And any additions to that are still welcome, and you can send those to my colleague Ahad, because in about 2 to 3 weeks time, we are going to have the final session on Khyber Pakhtunkhwa regulatory landscape. So anything further that you'd like to add in, please feel free to forward. With this, and you can see Ahad's email in the chat box as well, where you can send. So with this, let me once again thank colleagues who were panelists as well as who were attendees for taking time out. Really appreciate your inputs today and look forward to taking this, taking the next steps with your cooperation and collaboration. Thank you.